Potential Experts is brought to you by Vermonti's. Craving something cheesy, crispy, and unforgettably delicious? Say hello to Vermonti's Pizza, where every slice is a love letter to the Green Mountain State. From classic pepperoni to our legendary mac and cheese pizza, we're serving up bold flavors you won't find anywhere else. Order online and get 20% off your first order with promo code Vermonti20. That's VERMONTY. Hit us up on Instagram at Vermonti's_Vermont Eats to see what's hot and fresh right now. Vermonti's Pizza. Homegrown, handmade, hella good. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Potential Experts, the first of a two-part episode. We're going to run probably about 30 to 45-minute shows this week. The reality is there are two enormous things going on in two different realms of the sports world. We have the Super Bowl, of course, which we are going to touch upon tonight. And then we also have the NBA trade deadline that is heating up. So Ben and I are going to talk trade deadline tomorrow. We're here talking Super Bowl tonight. We have fan favorite Larry Pags in the building to accompany us along with the ride. Larry, appreciate you showing up again.
A little bit late. Sorry, buddy. Sorry, fellas. My bad.
Yeah. We also got the Knicks on in the background. Brandon, I'm going to kick it to you. Guide us however you see fit through the evening thus far. Obviously, we're going to talk Patriots Seahawks. We can talk, should the Patriots even be involved in this game? With the fact that Jarrett Stidham was the quarterback the other day. Does that even really count? I don't really know, but we can talk about that. Brandon, I'll let you direct this.
Yeah, so before I go on that rant, do want to just mention we do have some hockey stuff as well saved up for the end of the first half of this show. Just got a couple things. As I know we're going to have to talk a little bit. Rangers making a big move today. And then we've got some drama going on with the presumptive first overall pick in this year's upcoming drafts. Just a couple things that we should touch on before we wrap up this part one, our Super Bowl preview episode technically. But with that said, I was talking with some individuals this past week, and I felt that it was appropriate that those individuals have their voices heard. So at this point in time, I would like to introduce one very special guest to this program.
Ethan shaking his head. Ethan's well aware of what's shaking down right now.
Would you look at that? We have someone in the lobby.
I was kind of thinking we should get some Seahawks representation in here, so I'm glad he made an appearance.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce to the Potential Experts crew, Mr. Matthew Lybeck, our resident Seahawks fan of the infamous Fantasy Gurus group chat. So we're going to have a little bit of Seahawks Patriots fan action here for you on tonight's episode. So Matt, welcome to the program.
I hope I'm not echoing. Is everything sounding good on your end?
Yeah. You're good, man. Matt, you are looking beautiful today,
Thank you. I did my hair just for you.
I appreciate it. Who's that jersey? Is that K9?
It's K9.
Is that it? Yeah,
I could
there
have
we
put
go.
on a number
All
3
right.
jersey, but it's not Eamon Worry, so it's not getting put on.
That's understandable. Go with the current player. I respect it. Brandon, it's your show. Direct these fine gentlemen however you'd like. Just a reminder, my students sometimes listen to this, so we're keep it PG-13 at the worst. Brandon, show's yours.
Yeah, Pags, I covered that already. Don't worry about it. I got your back. I got my back. I got Larry's back. Ben's back. We're all covered. But with that said, Ethan, this is your show. You are big reason, the main reason why this show exists. So I'll give you first dibs here. All right. But I just have to ask, going into the Super Bowl, how are you feeling? Are you feeling confident in Drake May and the Patriots' ability to take care of business in the big game?
I mean, absolutely. I am definitely confident that they have a really legit chance to win this game. Seattle's a great football team, and it could go either way. Seattle is favorites in this game, betting odds, and I don't necessarily blame them, right? But you don't go 9-0, first team in NFL history, 9-0 on the road for a reason. You got to be good. Even, they had a lighter schedule, but these are the type of things that are fueling the Patriots right now, right? Everybody's doubt on them because of the schedule, because Drake May hasn't balled out in the playoffs. But I have confidence in this team. And, Seattle's very, very good, but they're not the greatest show on turf Rams, right? Like, this is a beatable team. If Sam Darnold gets under pressure, we've seen what can happen. He can turn the ball over, and I think that gives the Patriots a chance. Matt, welcome. I'm excited to have you here, and I'm excited to hear your thoughts too.
So, I've sat down. I've thought about this game plenty. I share your sentiment, but in the opposite end, I have never in my life watched a Super Bowl with as much confidence as I'm watching this one. And I'll tell you, I told Brandon, I spent about 25 minutes dropping the kids off at the pool at work today. So I collected some statistics while I was doing such things, which I have on a legal pad next to me, just from my personal reference. A fun fact, Patriots had the easiest strength of schedule since the 1999 Rams, the year I was born, the year several of us were born. Fun fact, that's 39.1% strength of schedule, which is good for 6.5 and 11.5 per season, which is like the best season the Jets have had in 15 years, and maybe the Giants too.
Yeah. Well, we had that Danny Dimes here, but yeah, that's
And the
about
other
it.
fun
Continue.
fact,
You got to play with
just to have fun with it, before, not to cut you off. Of the 14 teams the Patriots have played individually, 8 of them have fired their head coaches this year. And to 2 of them that haven't, one of which being the Jets, they fired basically everyone but their head coach this year.
That is factual. Oh man, here's the deal. I am rooting for the Seahawks so immensely hard this Super Bowl. I remember, I'll never forget, Matt. I was drawn to this when you and I texted after Super Bowl 51, after the Patriots 28-3 comeback against the Falcons, and you summed it up about as best as anybody could, where you just go, and I quote, "I am in physical pain right now." Okay. And I'm sure that wasn't even the worst physical pain you've been in because of a sports loss, considering the Super Bowl 2 years prior to that. Something infamous, I don't even want to say famous, infamous from the perspective of a Seahawks fan occurred. Is part of you wearing the K9 jersey to incite when you're at the 1-yard line, hand the ball off, don't get fancy?
You know what? I don't know what you're talking about, and I don't think about such things. They hurt my hypothetical feelings if I knew what you were talking about. I've definitely not
100%.
seen that play, dissected that decision a million times since I was 14. I did not impersonate Gronk and spike my phone after that occurred. I can tell these two are watching a Knicks game based on that reaction. But no, I would say the K9 jersey is just for a current player representation, and there's no longer Zach Charbonnet to hold him back. You know, best running back in the NFC West. Little shade at Christian McCaffrey. He can't.
I got your boy K9 winning the MVP, dude. I really do.
Super Bowl MVP?
Yes.
Really?
K9
I don't know
is
if
gonna
that
win
inspires my
MVP.
confidence.
Take that.
I think you said you don't know ball.
I think he did.
I mean, hey, listen, he'd be most qualified to say that. I mean, the amount of MDCJs, which just stands for mock drafts.
Right.
You know, it was a lot of fun.
It was mock draft with Chris and James.
Yeah, mock drafts with Chris.
They
and
were
James.
cool. They were cool.
They were great
Yeah,
guys.
I like
cool.
James, like Chris and
Fan,
James.
just
Chris
the
Morrison.
best crew you could have.
I know this is not a fantasy football show, but if Zach Charbonnet is not in the lineup next year for the Seattle Seahawks, K9 may be a good pick. Anyway, moving on. I really think he's going to be awesome. He's been obviously great in the playoffs. I do like the Seahawks, but I know people are kind of crapping on Drake May with his performance in the playoffs, but hey, it's survive and advance. You know, I'm a Giants fan, and I've seen quarterbacks manage games and defenses just, you know, play well. A defense and a running game, they travel, dude. So, you know what? You win ugly, okay? It is what it is. I've seen plenty of ugly wins as a Giant fan, and, you know, got 4 Super Bowls to show for it. So I think you guys will win the game, but I don't know if you're going to pull it out.
I don't know. I mean, people were saying this about the Houston game. Like, everybody on this podcast picked Houston. Everybody on ESPN picked Houston. And to my knowledge, that was the best defense in the league. And then Denver's got a really elite defense too. I recognize Seattle does as well, but I think New England's defense has been definitely good enough to keep them in winning positions. And I mean, I understand why, Matt, you feel confident for sure.
I don't mean to
That being said,
take away
no.
from the Patriots, but when you play Jarrett Stidham and CJ Stroud, I don't know how much confidence that inspires.
Well,
Yeah.
here's the thing, man. You've seen the Seahawks in 3 Super Bowls, and one was against Peyton Manning, the other one's against Tom Brady. So, like, I understand this being your most confident. Like, you know, this can't be my most confident out of the Super Bowls I've seen, but I've seen plenty. Brandon, you know what that's like?
Wow, catching strays over here. It's like, man, NFC Championship game. I know what it's like to get smacked around in one of those, but yeah, no, can't say that I do. Can't say that I do.
Hey, Matt, it was in 2000.
This is a long time ago. I was 1.
Giants made the Super Bowl against the Baltimore Ravens. And I went into that game like, we're winning this game. We're going to be Super Bowl champs. This is unbelievable. You know, I knew the Ravens had a really good defense, but we lost to some guy named, anybody
Trent
know?
Dilfer.
Trent Dilfer. That's correct. We lost to Trent Dilfer, okay? And to this day, sometimes I say to myself, we lost to Trent Dilfer in the Super Bowl? But we lost to the Ravens 2000 defense. That's what we did. They actually destroyed us. But I'm saying, you know, yeah, I get it, right? Stidham and CJ Stroud and whatever, but you don't know. You don't know what could happen. I really thought I was so confident going into that Super Bowl. I was more confident in that Super Bowl than I was in '86 when they played Denver and they were like 14 2 going in or whatever. So you never know, bud. That's why they play the game.
I have a follow-up question for you. What was the quarterback of that Giants team?
His name was Kerry Collins, sir.
Do you know what his grandfather's name was, perchance?
Grandfather Collins.
Do you know Sam Darnold's grandfather's name?
No, I don't.
I don't know.
I don't know. Where
I
he's
think
going.
this
I'm
is
trying to figure this out.
PG-13. Dick Hammer. And I don't know how a man with a grandfather with that name could ever lose a big game like this. The first 4 Marlboro men. Like, I don't know what else I need to tell you. That's lineage. That is championship
honestly.
pedigree.
It's like, remember when that kid that committed to
Is your
LSU,
quarterback
the
nickname-
the coldest to ever do it?
Crawford?
Watson or something?
Crawford.
Crawford. Sorry, not Watson. Crawford. Yeah. Oh, man, I'm still waiting for that kid. Honestly, if he came out this year, I'd use the 101 on him. And I think I have to. I'm in my right to
I
do
think
so.
he's been committed. I mean, I think he's out of college football now, but he did not have much of a career.
Okay, this is a little bit of a tangent. We'll get back to the Super Bowl in a second. Matt, you're I feel like the only other guy that might know this. This is something I learned today, and I can't tell if it's like legitimate. Hey, half court heave. Get there, OG. Ah, damn it. Okay, it's all good. Knicks up by 2 at the half. Anyways, you got our attention now more. Matt, Gordon Tyson, wide receiver out of Arizona State. We all should be familiar with him. Giants might take him. Okay, we're looking at him. Anyways, I saw something today, and you can probably tell me if this is nonsense. Is his brother Jalen Tyson from the Cleveland Cavaliers?
That is his brother.
Yes. Okay. That's wild to me. Jalen Tyson's having, I don't know, I go as far as saying a breakout, but he's having a very good year for Cleveland. I saw that and I was like, no way, because it was just kind of funny because I saw Harden hanging out with Gordon Tyson, and then they were like, oh, making the connection. Now he's going to Cleveland to play with Jalen Tyson. I saw that today and I'm like, that might be nonsense, but I'm going to ask Matt about it tonight because I feel like he would
they
know.
are in fact brothers.
Yeah.
Okay, that might be a reason they got rid of DeAndre Hunter. Again, I know we're not on a basketball podcast right now, but that might be one of the reasons.
Oh,
That's how he's going to end up on the
That-
Browns. Just you wait. We're going to get the Tyson brothers in Cleveland. Those poor kids.
Yeah, I would say kind of as neutral. I do tend to agree with your line of thought, Pags. The Seahawks just have a much larger advantage, I think, looking at as a roster as a whole, right? We've spent so much time talking about the quarterback position and how much that can impact the game, which is obviously not to be understated. But at the end of the day, do the Patriots have deep pieces around Drake May that I think they can beat a team like Seattle, a team that's run through a pretty hefty gauntlet in the NFC just to get to where they are now? The Patriots, we talked about their path to get there. It was easy. I mean, obviously, you play the teams you play. You don't have any control over that. And credit to the Patriots for taking care of business where they did. But at the same time, you are now facing your toughest challenge, not just of the playoffs, but of your entire season, arguably. So this is going to be a tough one for the Patriots to pull out. You look at the Seattle offense as a whole, they have veterans and good ones at just about every position. JSN, he's still on that rookie contract, but he's been lights out this year. Kenneth Walker can score score a goal, basically. Like this offense is just built to run not just off of any one person, but they get the ball to the guys who can make plays no matter what they're doing. And the defense, Seattle's defense, it's not Legion of Boom, but it's still pretty damn good. So I just look at the Patriots roster and I say, how can you contend with that? You are ahead of schedule. It's not the Patriots can't be where the Seahawks are now in a couple of years, but I think they're just way ahead of schedule.
They're theoretically at the
What do
same
you mean?
That's true. They all theoretically at the same point. I don't see a world where the Patriots can contend with the Seahawks this season.
Wow, you really have Seattle taking it to them, huh?
I think they're going to take care of business. I don't think this is going to be, shades of 48-3, but I think Seattle will win comfortably. Sorry.
I'm rooting against the Patriots, but I think you guys are selling the Patriots a little short. That defense is awesome too. They're very physical. Good defenses keep you in a game. Again, I think Seattle wins, but I don't think it's a blowout.
My only, not to cut you off, Pags, but my only question mark about their defense is they've played against 2 of the worst offensive lines in football in the playoffs. Any defense looks good when you're running against Swiss cheese. Like poor CJ Stroud.
Denver's got the best offensive line in football. Denver's got the best.
I'm talking about the Texans and the Chargers, who were starting literal fat dudes from Walmart.
I mean, the Patriots' offensive line is not very good either.
I don't. That's probably.
Well, when you have competent quarterback play, because I think we can safely say that Stroud and Stidham were not that.
Not to say that Justin Herbert exactly had an exceptional day either, but when you're running for look, I'm a South Carolina fan. I can tell you, I've watched a lot of quarterbacks run for their lives, and they do not look good when they do it.
Dude, is Sellers going to learn to throw the ball away next year? Or is he going to continue to run out of bounds and take 3-yard losses?
That depends. Am I controlling him? Because if I am, we're not losing a game.
If you are, it's gonna be a Nick Harbor go route every
And
single time.
did you not watch a
with a
single
Y.
game? That was how we scored like 50% of our points.
Yeah, it was. Oh dear Lord. So I want to give each of you an opportunity to talk a little bit about some individuals that are maybe the primary reason why you're in this spot. Ethan, I'm gonna give you one each. Ethan, I want you to talk about what Coach Vrabel means, how he's changed the culture. I mean, everybody saw Gerard Mayo as the successor to Belichick. It was no surprise when he was hired. I was personally surprised when you guys moved on from him after 1 year. I think it's safe to say that was a good call. So I want you to take a moment and talk a little bit about what Mike Vrabel has meant to your franchise this particular year, in a year that you went from, I think you guys were 4-13 in 24, 14-3 this year, Super Bowl bound. Speak a little bit about what Vrabes means to you guys.
Yeah, I mean, he means everything to them. You went from a coach in Gerard Mayo who wouldn't take any accountability for himself, like how he coached. He would just blame all the players. I think Vrabel's the complete opposite of that. Brought in guys who he was familiar with in Tennessee, like Harold Landry. Robert Spillane spent a year there with him as well. And they brought back guys like Josh McDaniels, and just were able to hit on every single person that they signed on defense this year, whether it be Milton Williams, Calvin Chason, Carlton Davis. I know that kind of tailed off from your question, but Vrabel means everything for them. He's a setter, kind of got like Belichick-esque vibes, but not the same exact intensity, right? He's a player's coach. He knows what it's like to be there. Yeah, he means everything to this team.
I saw a report today, and I'm sure you're certainly not tapped into the rumor mill, nor should you be. You have there's something way more important on the horizon in about 4 days than tuning into the rumor mill. I did see a report that said Max Crosby wants to play for Mike Vrabel and that he has likely played his last down with the Vegas Raiders. So, I mean, little off-season preview right there, something to keep an eye on when the new league year resets mid-March. Matt, the guy I want to give you, and this shouldn't be a surprise, talk to me about the beautiful man, and Ethan loves this guy too, but for a different reason. Jackson Smith-Njigba. Talk to me about what he has meant. And he was good last year in his sophomore year. He has exploded this year. Talk to me about what he
So
means.
at first, I thought you
Seahawks.
were setting me up for nickname and worry, but I can talk about Jackson Smith-Njigba with just as much energy.
Understood.
Oh, I mean, Jackson Smith-Njigba, I'll tell you firsthand, I saw his rookie year and I didn't get it. We used the 20th overall pick on him, picked him. He was the third receiver after Lockett and DK. I was happy. It was a luxury pick at the time, but I saw the first year. I was like, what are we doing? And, last year he really started to come into his own. It was like, okay, I'm seeing the vision. I'm seeing him, ascend and start to just do what Ohio State receivers tend to do, which would be pretty good. And, he's probably transcended the traditional pretty good moniker that I would say applies to a lot of them. He might be the best receiver in football. There were times watching that Rams game in the NFC Championship. How is he so open? Like, how do you as a defensive coordinator sit down and go, all right, for this play, we're just not going to cover that guy? Like, I understand that.
His routes are so crisp.
I know
so
Kubiak is, very, he's like an evil genius with how he schemes like JSN out of the backfield and like purposefully uses those motions. But it's like at a certain point, make a guy watch him the whole time. Like, zone coverage doesn't work against a guy like that. He's going to get lost and you're going to lose. He's just going to be sat somewhere wide open, 15 yards downfield in the hole in the zone. Truly, he's probably my favorite receiver on the Seahawks to watch, short of maybe Doug Baldwin. And it's similar strengths. Doug Baldwin, not as physically gifted, but similar route technique, aspects to it, where Doug was angry. Doug after the catch might be a little more intense than JSN, but everything they do leading up to the catch, they were both very impressive, and JSN's just better at it.
Yeah, he's truly unbelievable. Brandon and I were having this debate. I'm going to ask you this. Let's just say going into next season, would you rather have Puka Nacua or Jackson Smith-Njigba?
Wow, it's a great question. I am going to say Puka, but please not as any disrespect to JSN. I didn't really. Matt, you're right. You saw a little bit of what, right? You saw the potential, but did you think he was going to really? Basically, arguably the top receiver in the game right now.
I mean, going into this year, I could, he was probably like a third, fourth round fantasy pick this year, and I wasn't a big Darnold fan of it in the offseason as an acquisition, and that's gone, hilariously well. I couldn't have ever anticipated that he could, keep all that success going from Minnesota, and I'm glad we have him in round 9.
But at the same time, all right, Darnold, obviously, those last 2 games, they played Detroit for the NFC best record, and I think week 18 or something like that, he was awful. Then they played the Rams in the wild card round, he was awful, and everybody just, crapped on him. I mean, the guy did have a good year, but of course, in the big games, he did kind of choke it away. I get that, and he lost probably a lot of money for that, but still,
3 years, 100 mil
I
isn't
mean,
too bad.
do you guys know what his rating is in the postseason?
Well,
What
I
his
know he's
quarterback
the only
rating
one
is
who
right
hasn't
now?
turned the
It's
ball
like
over.
122. It's like 122.
Is it
Yeah.
really?
Yeah, it's nasty. And he throws the deep ball really well, and I think he's underrated when it comes to that. He throws a good deep ball, So I'm a big Sam Darnold fan, but I do see what people were saying. Like, oh my God, is this a good pickup? But he had 2 bad games. The worst times have the 2 bad games, but I don't know if he's as bad as.
Credit to Sam Darnold where it's due, and I think Ethan made the point earlier, which typically he doesn't react well to pressure. Historically, and this was a thing in the Jets, this was a thing everywhere he's been. It was a big thing last year with the Lions beating them and the Rams beating them, is when you get in his face, Sam Darnold is not always the best decision maker in the world. But I think that getting to beat the Rams 2 times in the last, month and a half of the season, I think that's great for his confidence. Because that first game, he threw, I think, 8 interceptions or committed 8 turnovers against the Rams of his 14 total this season. I think beating them 2 times in a row, and especially in the way we did it in the NFC Championship game, he played flawlessly. I think that's big for his confidence. And I think our offensive line is better than the ragtag group he had at the end of Minnesota there, with their left tackle who was out. I can't name a single other guy on that line, and maybe that's just for lack of my ball knowledge, but,
Did they have Bradbury as their center?
I don't know if he was still there by that point. He may still be, I don't know,
All right.
but I know that Darisaw, their left tackle, was out for most of the year.
Yeah, Christian Darrisaw, yeah. It's going back to JSN. Brandon, I want to play a quick who would you rather have, okay? Because you were the one that went head-to-head with me for JSN versus Puka, and admittedly, you got the better of me last week. JSN very clearly outplayed Puka. So I'm going to give you some very solid receivers from the past, and when I say these receivers, think about, like, their general prime. I'm not going to give you, I'm not going to be like, oh, obviously I'm not going to give you this guy, but I'm not going to go 1992 Jerry Rice. I'm just going to be like, if I were to say a player, I'm just going to say this guy. So JSN versus can't guard Mike, slant boy, Michael Thomas of the Saints.
I'm going JSN right now.
JSN?
I feel like Michael Thomas is a little one-dimensional, like you said, slant boy over there.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. AJ Green.
He was still pretty good.
I'm still going JSN right now.
Okay. Demarius Thomas.
You give me like a 50. That's like a 50-50. I think I lean Demarius Thomas on that one.
Okay, I got about 2 or 3 more depending on answers. Julio Jones.
Ooh,
To think about
Julio.
this.
The ones you're thinking about are the ones that are the most puzzling to me.
I don't know.
I think 2 more.
I'm thinking of it 2 more as like guys that I spent a lot of time watching. Like I'm not gonna lie, I didn't watch a lot of Michael Thomas and the Saints.
I mean, fair, but you were into fantasy. You know the
Yeah.
numbers he put up relatively. Larry Fitzgerald.
Larry.
Randy Moss with the Patriots.
Randy Moss.
Okay. I'm glad we're on that page. I'm not gonna lie, and I'll own up to this. I texted Ethan earlier this week, and I go, Brandon gives into recency bias more than I've ever seen anybody do. I'm like, I'm going to ask him. Yeah, I'm gonna ask him JSN or Randy Moss. I think he's gonna go Randy, but he's gonna think about it way too hard. And Ethan's like, there's no way he should do that. There's no way. There's one answer, and it's not JSN. I'm like 100%. So I will give you credit, Brandon, on that one. But I do like Matt's comment where it's like, the ones you're thinking about are puzzling to me.
I like you mentioned the recency bias thing. It's like, I think, especially with AJ Green, right?
Yeah.
All I think of is like those kind of like, I know he was like in his prime, one of the best wide receivers we've had in the game, but I just think like what kind of success, and again, it's not necessarily his fault, but what kind of success did Cincinnati have while he was there? Really not a ton. Like, yeah, they made some playoff appearances, but they weren't blowing anybody away. And he was a big reason why they had some good teams. But for the most part, I think like those last couple of years where he was good, but he wasn't like elite. Like I know at the end of the day, he's, a guy we're going to at least be talking about and being in the Hall of Fame if he doesn't go in. Still, great player, but a lot of those guys, that's the way I think about it.
Absolutely. All right, we're about a half hour in. We said we're going to do about a half hour, 45-minute show. I think now would be a good time to kind of make our rounds with 5 people. Give a brief, maybe we each get 1 to 2 minutes. Give who we think is going to win the game. Give us a final score and a Super Bowl MVP, and then just a little bit about why we made those selections. So about 2 minutes per person. I feel like that would put a nice wrap on football talk. And then Brandon, you could talk about your hockey after that. Let's because we know where Matt and Ethan are going to pick, so let's actually start with them. Matt, I'll kick it to you. Like I said, score, winner, MVP, and just a minute or two about why.
Okay, sure. I had to just do a quick fact check because, again, there's this hypothetical game that occurred in 2014 or 2015. I think 28-24. That score might sound familiar to some. Seahawks coming out on top. For my personal vendetta, I think that the Patriots should run a hypothetical slant pass at the 2-yard line to be intercepted by Nicky Manwari. That would be truly beautiful. I would enjoy that greatly. I think being realistic, I have a lot of respect for the Patriots. I do. I come in here and I talk crap about the schedule because I wanted to do that for the fun of it. But Drake May, like fakeness, like there's so much to like about that team. I really do. I hate that I have to hate them because it's still the Patriots and who my team's gone up against in
They're
the
a
Super
fun
Bowl,
crew.
which I never thought I'd say. I grew up hating every ounce of the Patriots with every fiber of my being. But I've even come to like Tom Brady, so things change. But, at the end of the day, I think the Seahawks have the ability to dominate both sides of the ball. I think an unleashed Kenneth Walker with no Zach Charbonnet randomly coming in and just running for 2 yards up the middle and falling backwards, not forwards. I think taking that out of the equation has really opened up a lot for the offense. We're letting one of our most explosive players touch the ball plenty. And, we're not seeing 12 carry Kenneth Walker that we saw throughout the regular season where he's a running back. Some of them just need touches to get going. And he's one of those, and he hasn't shown it as much since his rookie year. But if you remember his rookie year, he ripped like 4 or 5 75-yard touchdowns as a rookie as these two watch the Knicks.
I'm sorry. Cat looks good today. There's very few times we've been able to say that all year. Continue,
But
Matt.
he's very, Kenneth Walker's great, Jackson Smith and Jigba's great. I think ultimately it's one of those where unless Jackson Smith and Jigba does what he sometimes does do and just dominate the game, go for 10 catches, 100 some odd yards, I don't see him winning the Super Bowl MVP because I feel like it's going to be such a quarterback dominated award. If it's going to be, for Cooper Kupp did it obviously, but you have to really take over the game. I would wager if it's going to be anybody, I'm not going to try and be, throw a dart and be like Malcolm Smith, like we had the first year the Seahawks won, I guess the only year they won. But I think probably Kenneth Walker can take it. I'll take back my, accusation of lack of ball knowledge of Larry. I think we can ride with it. I think Kenneth Walker can get the job done, and hopefully the Seahawks can retain him going forward. Win, lose, or draw, I pray dearly that we can retain him because he is a dog.
Ethan, I'll turn it to you. I have a hunch who you're going to select. So same deal.
Absolutely. Same sentiment that Matt said. I have a lot of respect for the Seahawks team. I think they're a really good team. I'm going to pick my Patriots. I think the score is going to be close. I'm going 27-20, the same score or difference as Matt picked. I just think this team has had a lot of good karma on their side, and I think they really thrive off of people doubting them. And I think they're going to have a chance to really put pressure on Darnold. Harold Landry's going to be active in this game. Milton Williams is back into form. Christian Barmore looks great. And then Caleb on Chason, who's been an excellent pickup, who was a first-round pick and kind of considered a bust after his first few seasons in the league, but he's been really good for the Patriots this year. Kind of like Matt said about Kenneth Walker, I really hope the Patriots can re-sign Chason this offseason. MVP, I got to go with my guy Drake. I think he's going to have a few touchdowns, whether it be through the air or with his legs. He's been able to make plays all season, even in games where, like that Houston game, where he did struggle at times. He did make plays through 3 touchdown passes, and obviously made plays with his legs in Denver. So I got Drake.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'll go to you and then I'll go to Brandon after.
All right. I think Seattle is very well balanced. I talked about K- K9, and I think he's been running the ball really well. The offensive line has been blocking really well. Again, Darnold, I think he's gonna, I think he's just gonna be solid. I'm not saying he's gonna have mind-boggling stats. I think he's just gonna be solid, and it's gonna be like 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6 on a few times, and he's just gonna throw that 6, 7 yard, out. Uh, and I just think he's going to make the plays at the right time. But again, I'm going to stick with the running game, and I like Seattle 23-20 and K9 MVP.
Brandon, to you.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Seahawks. I think I made that pretty clear earlier. But with that said, I'm gonna take the Seahawks. I'm not gonna get too much into that just because, like I said, I've mentioned quite a bit about them before. But I'm taking the Seahawks. We're gonna go 33-21. Like I said, they're gonna handle business. MVP should not come as a surprise either. JSN's gonna come up big, make a lot of plays for the Seahawks this weekend.
Ugh, trying to find my Malcolm Smith, but I don't think I'm gonna
You know
find
who
him
to
in
say.
this bunch. Or Ernest Jones. I mean, how do you pronounce it?
Even
Manowari?
worry. And you can take
Imanwari?
Ernest Jones too, also a Gamecock. We accept all takers.
Yeah, Gamecock. Okay.
Okay, so I'm also going to go Seahawks 31-21. I just think that both teams are phenomenal. They both play very fundamentally sound football, but I do just trust Seattle. I think they have a little bit more firepower. I think they do more things at a slightly more elite level than the Patriots do. I think the Patriots have a really good defense. I think the Seahawks defense is a little better. I think, Drake May has actually, I guess I can't really say that May is worse than Darnold, but honestly, if you want to talk about the O-lines, I trust Seattle's a little bit more. There's just a lot of elements that I trust the Seahawks a little bit more on. And so with that, I'm going to go the Seahawks to win. Like I said, 31-24. Brunson, oh my God, dude needs to make an open shot. And the MVP, I was going to go JSN, but for the sake of being different than Brandon, I'm going to go with Sam Darnold. All right.
This is exactly what I wanted. I wanted everybody to pick the Seahawks.
Yeah.
This is
Tags,
great.
I appreciate that you added 3 points to the score you expected the Patriots to get on the basis of Brunson shooting a 3.
It's really frustrating. I got Jalen Brunson misses 2 pretty open looks on his possession, and then I have OG
Brunson
no,
gets
not OG. Sorry, then I Tim Hardaway Jr. brain a deep 3. It's really frustrating when my star can't make a shot right now. He
After
needs to
all
wake
that?
up. I'm getting. Yeah, Cat's actually playing great tonight. Brunson's the problem tonight. So there you go, Ethan. There you go.
Cat carries Brunson.
Cat carries Brunson. No, Brunson's a
Well,
problem.
in fairness, if
He's
Brunson
really
tried to carry Cat, he might die.
yeah. Cat
Yeah,
is a good
probably.
boy. Brandon, I'll turn it to you for a little hockey talk before we sign off for the evening.
Yeah, so first things first, I want to, you and I could talk about the Rangers in just a minute here, but the first thing I want to start off with is Penn State forward Gavin McKenna, been long projected to be the first overall pick in this upcoming draft, highly touted rookie. I know, Pags, we've talked about this in the past about how a lot of times guys get that franchise label way too often.
Generation.
And generational. He is one of those guys that I think is going to be a really good elite player who's been given that generational tag. Whether he's deserving of it or not remains to be seen, obviously, because he has yet to play in the NHL, but he is one of those guys who's been getting that tag. And so he decided to come to the U.S., play college hockey this year before his draft. He's draft eligible and reportedly has now been arrested on aggravated assault charges for breaking a guy's jaw in a bar after their outdoor game this past weekend, this past Saturday. Could be facing up to 20 years in prison, according to what the types of prison sentences that charge carries. And just to be clear, this is not something like a Twitter rumor. Like, this is being actively reported by reputable sources like ESPN and The Athletic. So this is certainly going to be a story to watch. This is all breaking within the last couple of hours before we started recording. So there's not much more information on that just yet at this time, but certainly a story that we are going to be watching very intensely over the next couple of days, next couple of weeks even. So curious to see what that does if teams are willing to still take a risk on him, knowing that basically his entire NHL career would be down the toilet if he does face that 20-year charge. But now, Pags, just to kind of take it in your direction a little bit here, the Rangers, we talked about the second edition of the letter a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And now we're starting to see some of those moves come to fruition. Artemi Panarin on the move, going to Los Angeles in exchange for prospect Liam Greentree, a first rounder a couple years ago, and a third round pick. Before I break down anything that I feel on this trade, give us your thoughts as a Rangers fan. Panarin signed that big ticket as a free agent a few years ago, and now you're seeing him leave in the last year of his deal. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, first of all, I appreciate Artemi Panarin for his 7 years as a Ranger. Somebody called him the greatest non-goaltender Ranger in the past 25 years, and that's probably accurate. I mean, who else would you argue?
Yeah.
I wouldn't argue Rick Nash. I wouldn't argue Yager by the time he got to us.
Yeah.
I wouldn't argue Gabrick.
Yeah, he had one good season.
We had some bruisers, but I love a Matt Zuccarello. I love a Chris Kreider. But realistically, it's Derek Stepan. But realistically, Panarin was the best Ranger, non-goalie Ranger in the past 20 years. So I appreciate the work that he did. Ultimately, I don't think he brought the toughness needed to endure throughout the grueling Stanley Cup playoffs. We got pennies on the dollar for him. Pretty terrible trade. The fact that Chris Drury has a job is pretty despicable. Yeah, I mean, there's there's just really no situation in which that trade works out for us, I feel like. So, yeah, you can break it down more knowledgeably than I can, but certainly underwhelmed by what we received.
Yeah, so I did a little bit more looking into this after Pags, after we talked earlier this afternoon about this a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, I was not super familiar with Liam Greentree, the prospect that they got back in this deal prior to today. I'd heard the name before, but I wasn't too familiar. So just looking into him a little bit, just this is something that I actually saw as a pretty major red flag. Again, I don't know a ton about the season he's been having, but just looking at the stat totals so far, I mean, last year 119 points in 64 games in the OHL. That's a great number. That's certainly something you want to see from a first round pick. But this year, steep decline in that point production. 45 points in 34 games so far this year. You're at basically a 2 point per game mark last year, and this year you've seen that when you should be progressing further and becoming a better player. We've seen a regression in that total from almost 2 to now just barely over 1. So that's certainly something that's got to be a big red flag, and certainly a reason why the Kings were ready to move on from him. The third round pick, I mean, and who knows what that's going to be. That's certainly something you're not going to see a return on for, I would say, at least 3 years after you make that selection. So I kind of agree with you. Kind of a bad trade on the Rangers end. I mean, again, you were going to trade guys for assets, future assets. So, you certainly accomplished that goal, but I think you certainly could have gotten something a little bit better for a stud like Artemi Panarin. Not totally sure what his contract clause situation is, so I don't know. I mean, he probably had a little bit of leverage there as far as his location goes, but on the other side of things, let's go ahead, Larry.
No, B, I'm sorry to interrupt, but yeah, all right. So I think again, I'm not acting like this big NHL guru, but we just didn't want to lose him for nothing, right? And
Yes.
I get it. Did we get a lot back? Not really, but we got something back, right? A little bit something back. I'm not saying this person's going to be a game changer or whatever, but we could have lost him for nothing. So at least we got something.
Brandon, I likely missed it if you did you talk for a second about because it's a conditional third round. Did you talk about the condition on that third rounder?
I did not talk about the conditions.
So if what I read is correct, I saw that it is a third rounder that can be upgraded to a second rounder if the Kings win a playoff series.
Yes.
Yeah, you heard that as well. Okay, good. So that wasn't nonsense.
I will give your uncle that credit though.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess we should be rooting for the LA Kings to win a playoff series. I guess.
Yeah.
Which
I think actually, if they go to the round, something else happens too.
We get a 2027 fourth rounder, I believe.
Well, which that's another thing that we should discuss is the Kings' playoff chances, because that's the other questionable part of this move, in my personal opinion. The Kings are currently sitting a point out of the playoffs, and you're adding guys to your roster in preparation for a playoff push when you didn't make the playoffs last year, and you haven't been able to get out of the first round 3 or 4 of the years prior to that. With the current roster makeup, basically, not much has changed. I don't understand the move a little bit.
Say this: did they not lose to the Oilers in the first round last year? Because haven't they done that every year for like a decade?
They did. I can't remember the first round matchup last year, but I know they were out of the playoffs last year.
Gotcha.
Either way, yeah, it was, but basically every year before that, lose to the Oilers in the first round. So either way, it's just a questionable move from Los Angeles front office on my end, or the way I look at things is you're acquiring an aging star. It was basically a rental, so you didn't give up much for him. I'll give him credit on that end, but at the same time, you also signed him to a 2-year extension.
Yeah.
So it's a steal for the Kings, but at the same time, I just don't think you were in a position where that kind of move was warranted. That should have been a team like Dallas, Colorado, Vegas, like some kind of star organization should have been making that move, not the Los Angeles Kings.
He had a no movement clause, and he only wanted to go to LA, is what I heard.
I was mentioned that before when I was talking to him. I was not sure what his clause situation is. I figured he did have some leverage. I just wasn't sure quite to the extent that leverage was.
As much leverage as you can possibly have. Do you know Landry Shamet also has a no trade clause?
Is he one of now 2 people, with Bradley Beal being the second?
Yeah, isn't what
is he in LA?
Bradley Beal? Yeah, he's done for the years with the Clips now.
Oh, he's hurt. Wow, what a shocker.
Yeah, he probably got hooked because he plays defense so hard.
That's what I've always heard about him.
Yeah, Brandon. Before I turn to Matt for a very brief fantasy basketball update, I want to hear about your team for a minute. Any further hockey updates?
No, I'm good. Hit it.
Awesome. Just so we can hit a little bit of basketball. Ethan, think of a baseball fact in the meantime, so we hit all 4. Matt, take just 30 seconds. Give us a crash course fantasy basketball update. How's your team looking? We liking the Jalen Johnson stock now that Trae Young's out of the picture. How we feeling?
I don't think it's PG for me to talk about Jalen Johnson here, so I'm not going to.
Understood.
I don't think my thoughts are pure. But we're sad at 12-3. We just lost our first game in 2.5 months last week, but When you don't have
Outside
Giannis, Kevin Porter Jr., DeMontis Sabonis, Keontae George, and a few others, it makes life a little bit hard. But no, I
Understood.
mean, we're ready to make a strong playoff push. I'm still alarmingly good at this for how bad I am at fantasy football. So yeah, it's a good time.
All right. And Ethan, what's our baseball fact?
The Boston Red Sox signed former New York Yankee Isaiah Kiner-Falefa.
Oh, nice. We love that. Oh, 1 second. Up top. Big Mitch. Let's go.
Did he
All
hit a
right.
three?
Ladies and gentlemen. What's up?
Did he hit a three?
Yeah. Mitch.
I heard up top. That's what I was assuming.
I was like, no, he got all excited over a free throw. Come on, Matt, get your head
I
out
mean,
of
with
here.
Mitchell Robinson,
Yeah, I was gonna say
you do.
Absolutely.
He has 1 out of 2 on the
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening. Matt, Larry, thank you so much for joining. A lot of fun on this trip. Please like, subscribe, tell your grandmothers, tell your grandfathers all about us, and be on the lookout for another episode tomorrow. OG Ananobi for 3. Bang! Let's go.
Go, baby.
All right. Time for us to sign off so we're no longer obnoxious. Go Knicks. Thank you very much. Peace.
Good seeing you guys.
See ya.
Peace out, brothers.
Good night, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a special episode, a trade deadline special episode of Potential Experts. It's a 2-man crew today, just the two Bens talking some ball. Brandon doesn't know ball, and Ethan's got stuff going on. So no big deal. We had a great episode last night talking a little football preview. Larry Pags, fan favorite, and then also a first-time guest, Matt Lybeck. So make sure that you tune into that episode. Or these might be mushed together if Brandon figured out how to edit them actually together. However, I'm going to turn over to Ben because, as I stated in the beginning, we're doing a trade deadline special. The trade deadline, we're recording this right now at Thursday, 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. The trade deadline wrapped up just slightly over 4 hours ago at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It was an entertaining deadline. I wouldn't say the most crazy deadline I've ever seen. That probably is reserved for last year when Luka got dealt, Fox got dealt, Levine got dealt.
Jimmy Butler.
There was a lot that went down last year, but I would go as far as saying this one certainly did not disappoint. If you have a pulse for high drama and high intrigue, this was it. So Ben, I'll turn it to you, and as I typically do when we talk basketball specifically, I'll let you guide this where you see fit.
Excellent. Yeah, like you said, pretty entertaining deadline. I don't think anything will ever top Luca, but the NBA really is the best reality TV show out there with all the drama involved. You know so much about these guys' lives and their personalities, so it always makes for good entertainment off the court. And this is kind of the best time of the year for that, I would say. I know we're kind of going to go through the biggest trades. I mean, there was at least like 20 total, so we're not going to touch on all of them. But I guess I'll kick us off. Oh, actually, wait. I got to pause.
Go.
One Super Bowl question.
Shoot.
Did you guys mention the Emerald City Route artist yesterday?
No, I didn't see that video until today, and it's funny. I actually sent that to Matt the second I saw it pop up on my Instagram, and I just love it was like the tweet that laid over where it's like, this is without a doubt the worst nickname I've ever heard in all of sports.
Hot take, fire nickname.
It's too long. Wait,
You can't whip it out all the time, but it makes for a good Twitter edit caption. Anyways, back to basketball because I don't know what I'm talking about that other stuff. My first trade that I wanted to talk about, it's been a little over 24 hours since this has happened, but I do think, despite maybe some more shocking trades going down, even though this one was pretty shocking, the Harden-Garland trade was far and away for me, I think, the most impactful trade for this season and even for going forward, especially for the Clippers. I think I like the trade for Cleveland. I'm not 100% sure if I do, but I think when you take into account the fact that they are kind of getting worried about Mitchell and his future there, it seems to be something that pops up every 18 months or so that he didn't want to go there in the first place. They've got some concerns about him staying there. And with Garland's health being a constant issue, him and Mitchell, while having regular season success together, have not meshed super well. And I don't think either of those guys enhance each other. I think going ahead and getting Harden, a guy who, yes, his Game 7 track record is very subpar, but will be out there for you at least and get you to the playoffs. And, he has had good playoff games. He won Philly, that game one without Embiid against Boston a few years ago. He's shown up for Houston. He has, he's good for a couple games a series where he's going to go out and get you a W, which is more than Garland has done in the playoffs. So I like that move for Cleveland a lot. Well, maybe not a lot, but I do like it for them. They are getting older. And then for the Clippers, I don't hate it. They're getting younger. I do think Garland's injury concerns with the rate that they're occurring at this point in time are, for lack of a better word, concerning. But I think it's good for them to get younger and to kind of, it's the old sunk cost fallacy. Like, you're not going to make the playoffs this year, but that Paul George trade was 6 years ago now. 6 years ago now. You can't just keep on doing all of your roster decisions based around the fact that we can't let this pick go to OKC. We can't let this happen. Sunk cost. You move on. You start building for the future. I'm sure we'll talk about their other trade later, but I like the deal for both teams.
Yeah, it's funny when you remove obviously all the context, which I'll do for a second and then I'll add it back in. It's a very, very strange deal to make from Cleveland's perspective. You're trading a 26-year-old guard who has 2 All-Star appearances under his belt for a 36-year-old guard in pretty significant decline from what he used to be. That's a strange move at the surface. However, when you compound it with the fact that reports have suggested that Donovan Mitchell may not sign his extension this offseason if the Cavs have another first or second round exit, when you compound that with the fact that, as we've been talking about as Knicks fans all year long, the East is so wide open, and this is the year to go for it because next year you're going to get a healthy Jason Tatum. You're going to get a revamped Pacers squad. Certain you and I are going to dive deeper into over the course of the half hour. But you really look, I mean, a team like Detroit is going to get better. A team like Philly, pending Embiid's health. I mean, Maxey probably is going to get a little better. Edgecomb's going to get better. Like, there are several teams that can absolutely get better. And you know what? I'm not going to hate on Cleveland for going for it in a year where, as you stated, Garland's injury history has ramped up and has just, there's something with that turf toe, man, that he suffered in, that he, well, not suffered in, but was dealing with throughout the playoffs last year that just hasn't fully healed. And he even said it a few months ago. He's like, this isn't just like the kind of injury that I rest for a few months and I'll be back and it'll be good to go. This is just something you have to work through and play through until it just gets better and I kind of just get used to it. He said that, I believe, back in late December, early January. So with that, I respect Cleveland for really going for it. Harden hasn't performed the greatest in the playoffs, so I'm not going to sit here as a fan of another team, another prominent team in the East, and act entirely terrified. But at the end of the day, they did get better. If you're the Clippers, makes a lot of sense. You already talked about it, so I won't go into it too much. Strong cost fallacy. You know, everyone talks about the Luka trade being the worst trade in one of the worst trades in NBA history. I think it's clearly the Shea trade, which I guess was the Paul George trade at the time. But as you stated, I mean, they couldn't have known what Shea was going to become at the time. And you just got to move on with your life. You got, like I said, 10 years younger, traded a 36-year-old guard for a 26-year-old guard. Kawhi, I'd be surprised if this isn't his last season with the Clippers, to be quite honest.
I mean, there were some last-minute rumors today that he could have been gone. I mean, it didn't happen, but I don't think his future is long for that organization.
No, and he's having a phenomenal year. So and he's going into this summer with 1 year left on his contract in the 26-27 season. If you're the Clippers, I have no idea why you wouldn't sell high on him this summer. I guess I'm a little surprised why you wouldn't sell high on him now. Maybe they know something we don't about, was it aspiration suspension coming down the pike? Is that what it's called?
Yeah. I mean, that's looming over everything for them. Some people were saying that's why Harden maybe wanted out. I think it had to do more with contract extensions and money stuff. But that's always a factor for them. And like you said with Garland, even beyond the turf toe, there's just guys, I think Embiid's kind of like this, where it just seems like they have constant bad luck with these random injuries that aren't like necessarily reoccurring things. But I mean, how many guys have to get their jaw wired shut? Like, that doesn't just like happen to people. That is like, he just seems to have bad luck with those things. And like you said, I'm not scared of Cleveland. I would love to watch a playoff series of Harden and Donovan Mitchell chasing Landry Shamet around screens. That'll be entertaining. But I do think he enhances their team as a whole. He's an elite playmaker at this point in his career. What he's going to do for Allen as a role man, what he's going to do for Mobley as a role man when he's playing the 5, I think that's going to be great. It's going to take a lot of pressure off of Mitchell to have a constant, kind of secondary ball handler there. So it'll be good for them. I don't know. Any other thoughts on the trade?
No, I think we about covered it as much as we'd like to. Oh, there we go. I'm much brighter now. I realized I was so dark in here. Yeah, that covered about as good as I wanted to. Do you want to take it the next way, or do you want me to offer one up that we should chat about?
Why don't you bring one up? Because I got to go get a glass of water. I'll leave the audio on for me so I can hear you, but I'm on the verge of a major coughing fit at the moment.
Yeah, go for it. So what I'm gonna bring up is I'll stay in the East, and specifically sticking with East contenders. It definitely wasn't one of the bigger trades in the past few days, but I do think it's one of the more impactful trades. I'm talking about Nikola Vucevic getting sent from the Chicago Bulls to the Boston Celtics. I think I've heard this over the course of the past day or so. One of the best ways that it's put, because there's been some criticism directed Nikola Vucevic's way, in the sense that he's a cone on defense, his best days are behind him, and while that all might be true, the reality of the situation is he brings another dynamic to an already very, very good Boston offense. And when you have a guy like Joe Mazzulla, who is a wizard and a genius from a basketball perspective, specifically an offensive perspective, the last thing, as a fan of an opposing team, and again another prominent opposing team in the East, that you want to see is your enemy, who you know is smart as hell, be able to have another dynamic into their offense. So that's something that I think is a great move for the Celtics. As good as Nemish Keita played last night, I believe, 19 rebounds, 8 Alperen Şengün's lunch in a game that the Celtics beat the Rockets in without Jaylen Brown. I still think they needed to go out and get a big man. I was terrified because there were rumblings so this trade was announced Wednesday around 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it wasn't made official until today. And there was rumblings throughout that entire time that, hey, the Celtics are looking to find a way to get Ayo Dosunmu packaged in that deal, which I don't know who else they would have had to give up in addition to Anthony Simons, but that terrified me. When I heard the deal went through, actually, it wasn't even that I heard the deal went through. I heard Ayo got traded to Minnesota, which I want to talk about later. But when I heard that happen today, I breathed a big sigh of relief because I was terrified they were going to get Vooch and Ayo. But fortunately, they just got Vooch. Still think it's a great move for them. Hopefully, he ends up being barbecue chicken in a playoff series. But I'll turn it to you, Ben, if you have any particular thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, as the dogs get going, you did something. Sorry. You mentioned something there, with having a new dynamic. And a few weeks ago, I talked about the 5 keys to being like a championship contender. And one of those keys is versatility and being able to beat teams in multiple ways. And like you said, this gives them an entirely different look at the center position than they had with just Keita there and some lesser backups. I do still think Keita is going to finish games for them. I think he's their starting and closing center. I think that's the right call if they do that. But like you said, it's another element. And then from Chicago's side of things, talking about bad trades, I mean, when you look at what they got for Vucevic and what they gave up for Vucevic, going from Franz Wagner to Anthony Simons, it's a rough series of events. Maybe they kind of go forward now as a team from that weird DeRozan, Veen, Vucevic era, Russo too. They didn't get a ton of value for any of those guys. Bulls famously not very well run, and I think that, the returns that they got here show you that. And they have this weird team now with like 11 guards. I mean, they just signed Matt McClung today.
I saw that. That's
why are you doing that? Yeah, their center play is going to be very rough. Maybe they don't go for the old 40 and 42 this year.
Is Nick Richards starting for them at center?
Is that where he ended up?
Yes, that is where he ended up. I believe the Suns, the Bulls, and the Bucks made an 11th hour deal. I think it came through my timeline around 2:42 because I had X just on my main screen today at school all day long. I promise I teach effectively. I promise. But I did have X all off the entire day, just refreshing to see all the trades that came through. I'm pretty sure that's where he ended up because prior to that, the Bulls only had the tallest player on the roster was 6'9" before that deal.
Yeah. So then I guess he kind of by default is that starting center. And for Boston, good move, not a great move. I was worried that, like you said too, at Dosunmu, I was worried there'd be more for them. They were definitely a Zubats team. They were a Dosunmu team. Even a guy like Kobe White or someone could have ended up there. And I think with the recent, there was a big momentum push with Tatum potentially coming back. And he came out and said last week, pump the brakes. I'm probably not going to do that this year. I think they're going to be fine being a playoff team. I could definitely see them winning a first round series. I still don't think they have the star power to get out of the second round. They're a professional basketball team. But I think they're one of those teams that's a lot scarier in the regular season than the playoffs. Hopefully, I don't have to eat my words on that come April, May. But, it's good to have a winning culture. And I think a winning culture is going to take a guy like Vucevic and elevate him compared to what he was going through playing for that Chicago Bulls franchise.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think we about summed up all the major key points on that trade. Why don't you lead us in our next direction? Because I think we're going to recap about anywhere between like 6 and 8 trades today on where conversation. Yeah, I intentionally didn't. Depending on where conversation goes, I think we're each bringing up 3 a pop, and then of course, as Ben and I do, we're going to talk about the Knicks a little bit and Alvarado. But go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, I'm going to go a little off the beaten path here because it's not one of the bigger names that were traded. But I was very interested by Detroit's deadline, another Eastern Conference contender who, unlike Boston and unlike who did we talk about before? The Cavs, sorry. I don't think they got significantly better.
Yeah.
Their sole move was trading Jaden Ivey for Kevin Huerter, basically.
You know what Kevin
you got
Huerter's shooting from 3 this year?
I do actually, and it's a lot lower than you would think. It's down to what, 31 this year?
31%. I think I heard that from Macri actually yesterday, which that shocked me. That if you would have asked, I would know. Kevin Huerter's a great shooter. He's probably shooting 38, 39%. If you had told me he's shooting 41%, you wouldn't catch me being surprised.
No, and that's closer to where he is for his career. And I'm sure Detroit is betting on the law of averages. It'll even out. You see guys all over the league go through these stretches. You have stars like Towns who are having down shooting years, and you just kind of got to believe that things will return, regress to the norm or progress, I guess, if you're increasing how you're doing. I didn't really get the move for Detroit. I got one of my good friends down here is from Michigan. He's a big Pistons fan. And from his perspective, Ivy obviously didn't accomplish too much with the team with his injury issues. It felt very similar to how we as Knicks fans felt about Emmanuel Quickly or how Hoodie Garland on Twitter felt about Darius Garland.
That man's going through it right now. Pour one out for him. He's going through it, man.
That's like a guy you take with a top 5 pick. He's supposed to be your part of your backcourt of the future with Cade, and you end up not getting much for him. I think Huerter helps you, as kind of like a poor man's Duncan Robinson to replace him off the bench. Maybe a little bit of a better defender than Robinson is, but really, he's not closing games for you. And I honestly thought that, I didn't think Ivy on his own was going to get you something, but if you combine him with the Tobias Harris salary and some draft assets, he could be the young player in a deal to go get, at a high-end Lauri Markkanen and at a low end Tyler Hero, and he just seemed he just got dumped off. So, I think where is he now? Chicago?
Yeah.
Right? At the end of this all. I think he'll
any player that's just 6'5" or under, any guard that can kind of shoot maybe and has a decent handle on the ball, just assume they're in Chicago. I'm almost certain they're going to sign Cam Thomas too. We'll get to that in a little bit, but continue.
Yeah. So, again, as a Knicks fan looking at other contenders in the East, I was pretty concerned this whole first half of the year that Detroit was going to make a move and go in and get another star, because as great as Cade Cunningham is, and he is great, top 10 player in the league, should be all NBA first or second team this year. When it comes to the playoffs, you do need a secondary creator, someone who can dribble the basketball outside of Cade and create his own shots. Last year they had it with Schroeder, and you would assume that it was going to be Ivy this year, especially going into the season. And now you don't have that. And while I think Detroit's going to continue to be very dominant in the regular season, when they get into a playoff matchup against good coaches and good teams, take the Celtics, for example, I'm sure Missoula could find a way to game plan directly at Cade and make those other guys beat you. And now, not that Ivy was a huge threat before, but who is the other guy on Detroit that's going to beat you if you send your entire defense at Cade? Duran's a great player and all-star, but that's not the type of player he is.
You're putting a lot
and
of
I
faith
really
in
thought
Tobias
that
Harris. You're putting a lot of faith in Toby.
Which good luck, I guess.
Yeah, I know. He hurt us in the playoffs last year. This isn't Philly Tobias Harris. This is a good basketball player, Tobias Harris.
Yeah, he's a good basketball player. I thought Ivy would be a piece to go get you a great basketball player, and it wasn't. So a little bit of relief, I guess, as a non-Detroit fan in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I saw this tweet after that was just the Pistons just got way deeper. And I was I had to take a step back, and I was like, is Dario Saric having a career resurgence of a year? So I went and looked up his stats. He's averaging a crisp 1.2 per game. And then I looked at Kevin Huerter's stats. And as we already talked about, he's averaging 31% from 3. Do I think that will continue throughout the year? No, I do not. I think he'll, as you said, regress towards the mean or progress towards the mean. However, I'm looking at this, and even the sentiment across Pistons Twitter circles is not one of being positive. They've pointed out
Nope.
they've pointed out that the Celtics got stretch five. They even said the Knicks got a really good scrappy defender in Alvarado. They point out how Cleveland went out and made the big move to get Harden, and then even added some supplemental moves and a guy like Schroeder, which you just brought up, and Keon Ellis. The four main contenders, three of them I feel like undoubtedly got better in the past 48 to 72 hours. I don't think Detroit got undoubtedly better. I really, really don't. And they are not pleased with sending Ivy out for this kind of a return. I don't think they would have killed them for sending him out in a bigger deal, especially if that deal brought back a Larry Markkinen. But it was clear that Utah, and we'll talk about Utah in a few minutes, it was clear that Utah went a different direction and they intended to keep Larry, which thank God, as you stated, because Larry in Detroit scared the crap out of me. But yeah, this trade, I don't feel like moved the needle for me. And it's, again, I hope I don't have to eat my words here, but I think it's just reinforcing a point that Detroit's a phenomenal regular season team, and they're going to be a really tough out in the playoffs. But I think they're a year away from being like a upper echelon of contention.
Yeah, I would concur. And it's weird because, I mean, you would kind of think they would have had the most assets to get better out of all those teams, too.
They did, which is wild that they kind of just sat on their hands. And the issue is with that, and not necessarily issue, I'm actually watching the Pistons play the Wizards right now. Wizards are beating them by 7, ironically. The thing about it is, like, I understand you want to see like what your young team can do, with as we talked about Cage, Thompson, Duran, even like a Duncan Robinson kind of guy, and Tobias Harris. No, those last two guys aren't really young, but you get my point. One thing that I've learned as a sports fan, because I've seen it way too many times from other teams, from my own team, if you have a crack at it, you have a chance to go for it, you got to go for it. You can't just sit on your hands. I remember, the 2017 Yankees, the Baby Bombers, when Aaron Judge was a second-year player. Actually, no, he was a rookie that year. My bad, excuse me. And we went to Game 7 of the ALCS, and we lost. And the whole sentiment was, we'll be back, we'll be back. It took us 7 years just to get back to that moment, and we ended up going to the World Series and obviously lost. So, like, we still haven't even broken through that threshold yet. The Cincinnati Bengals, when they made it to the Super Bowl in Joe Burrow's second year a few years ago. Oh, this is just the beginning of the Bengals run. They'll be back, they'll be back. Year after that, they went to the AFC Championship game, lost. Year after that, they went to the divisional round, lost, haven't been back in the postseason since. You have to take a crack at it when you can, and just sitting on your hands and just allowing stuff to unfold around you isn't typically the best move. I don't really.
Especially in the East this year,
Yes.
because it's going to be better next year.
Yeah.
And this is a golden opportunity.
Yeah. Well, let's use that actually. Let's use that exact statement then to transition to a trade that probably isn't going to pay enormous dividends right now, like this year. Is that a smoke alarm?
It's my Instant Pot.
It's your Instant Pot. Okay.
Chicken on the go right now.
Under
Cooking up in there.
So even Amanda from the other room was just like, I hear that. What is that? Okay, we were talking. Okay, a trade that's not going to pay a ton of dividends this year because it's for a bottom dwelling team in the East that will not be a bottom dwelling team next year. I'm talking, of course, about Big Zubac going from the Clippers to the Indiana Pacers in a deal that sent Benedict Mathurin, Isaiah Jackson, and 2 first-round picks to the Los Angeles Clippers. I'm not even going to really think too much about the 26-27 season right now because, we're in the midst of a very, very competitive 25-26 season that feels pretty open. However, if you're the Indiana Pacers, you're looking at a lineup next year of Tyrese Halliburton. I pray it's not Darren Peterson or AJ Devonta, but it could be. Aaron Nesmith, Pascal Siakam, and Ivica Zubac. That is...
And
Nembhard coming off the bench, or maybe even starting at the 2 guard, depending on what player they get. Maybe their top rookie, like Reed, doesn't... He's not going to be Reed Shepherd in the sense he doesn't play, but maybe Reed Shepherd in the sense he comes off the bench in his first year. That team is going to be loaded. Even Ethan said, I was texting with him earlier, and he was like, dude, if they get, like I just said, Peterson or Devonta, whatever, however you pronounce it, they're going to be the favorites to come out of the East next year. And it's crazy to say that.
Oh, yeah.
Probably will be.
No, Zubac he's great. I've been on the Zubac train for a little while now. He's not the same type of player that Turner was for them. He's not as much of a spacer, but he's far and away a better player than Turner. He is dominant. And in a league that I think one of the trends you're seeing this year is that teams are beefing up and getting bigger, whether it's, Detroit with a They can run out Stewart and Duran, or the Knicks with Cat and Mitch. Sorry. He's going to be very valuable in that Eastern Conference. I mean, like you said, this is a big win for the Pacers. It came in kind of towards the end of the deadline, and it was one of those ones where I was like, ah. So, I mean, good for them. Not my favorite team out there, but good for them. And then I think from the Clippers side of it, you got to call it a win-win. Getting 2 firsts for Zubats and a good young player in Mather. And that pick this year, we can't guarantee that the Pacers are going to land top 4. They can probably finish as one of the 4 worst teams, but we've seen in multiple lotteries in a row now, these things shake around heavily. And they could easily fall to the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, like, any of those spots until you get to 10. And I mean, even if that doesn't happen, that becomes a 23rd unprotected pick. And then you have Pacers are a good team right now, but things get weird in the NBA. Clippers have 2 unprotected picks, and they're turning from a team that is barren of draft assets into a team that's going to start building them up. So I think both organizations got to be pretty happy. I guess my one thing with this for the Clippers is I don't really get why they did it now. They don't have their draft pick this year. I know you kind of got to move on from it, but Zubats is going to have just as much trade value in the summer. He's got multiple years left on his deal, on a great deal, one of the best value contracts in the league. So I don't know why you don't, continue to try to be competitive this year with him and just make this move in the summer. But, injury risk, I guess. There's always a world where he, gets a terrible injury and his value decreases tremendously. So you make the move now. I personally probably would have held off on it, but when a team comes down offering you 2 good picks and Benedict Mathurin, I can't blame him for taking the deal.
Yeah, look at the timing of the deal. As we said, this was kind of an 11th hour deal. I wonder if this is one that kind of just I wonder if it was deep in negotiations, or what I think is maybe more likelier is it kind of just sparks maybe around 1, 2 o'clock this afternoon, and the Clippers didn't expect to get their doors blown off, but they did by an offer. So maybe that could have been. Maybe I'm totally off. Maybe this was in discussion for several weeks. Maybe the Clippers know Kawhi's about to be suspended. Might as well just cut our losses at this point. Or, maybe it was actually something more serious than that. Maybe the Clippers are actually thinking long term and not trying to blow up mortgage their future. Instead, maybe actually consuming draft capital as opposed to just burning it and giving it away.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
All right.
Take another
I
pick.
got one for us.
Go for it.
Yeah. We haven't mentioned either of the 2 other all-stars who have been traded yet, and we're still not going to do it. We'll save them. I think we can kind of hit those in conjunction at the end because they're not going to great teams for now. I really liked the Ayo Dosunmu trade for the Timberwolves.
I wrote that down, Tim.
And again,
I wrote that down.
Yeah, as a fan of an Eastern Conference team, I'm glad that guy went out west. He's shooting 45% from 3 this year. He's a good 2-way player. Not only is he a good role player who can play the point guard position for you, but he can pop off for 25 points on a night. I don't know if he's going to start for them, but I could definitely see him finishing for them. And we talked about this when we did our power rankings, about a month back. I said the Timberwolves, they're a good team, but they don't have a point guard right now.
Yeah.
And what they did is they addressed their need. They gave up not a ton. I don't know what you're going to get from Dillingham long term. And then it's only 4 seconds, going along with him. But if I'm being honest, I think with the myriad of injuries going on in Denver, the Aaron Gordon thing is very concerning. Peyton Watson having a breakout year, just got a hamstring injury of his own last night against the Knicks, and a fantastic Knicks win. Dosunmu, for me, makes them the second highest favorites in that conference when you're accounting for Denver's injuries and Houston's, Adams is done for the year. They also don't have a point guard outside of Shepherd. San Antonio's inexperience. I think Dosunmu makes them a much better team, probably the second best team in that conference. And last point on it before I let you jump in, we've seen it with San Antonio in their matchups against Oklahoma City. If you want to beat that team, you need athletic guards who can hang with their physicality and speed, and Dosunmu is exactly that for Minnesota. I think he's very valuable in that matchup specifically, where if you're trying to win the West, you're going to have to beat the Thunder.
Yeah. I wanted the Knicks to take a look at Dosunmu, and I'm sure we took a look. There was no way on God's green earth that we were going to be able to match the cost, which was Dillingham in 4 seconds. We have the seconds. We don't have a young player that, not that Dillingham is a future star in any way, shape, or form, but that holds at least as much intrigue as Rob Dillingham does. I remember he dropped to 8th in the draft, and I actually thought he should have gone top 4 in a very, very weak 24 class. That actually might not even be that that weird of a take at this point because that class is just horrific. But yeah, no, he can just go coast to coast. He's so quick. He sparks so much energy of an offense. I remember when we played Chicago in those two games early season. They took it to us in the first game. We took it to them in the second game. Fortunately, that started a little 5-game win streak for us. But he killed us. Like I said, going end to end. As you said, if they're going to hang with a team like OKC, you need fast guards that are reliable, that can be strong on the ball. And they really kind of lacked that traditional point guard. They had Dante kind of playing point guard. Now that Conley has finally seemed to hit the regression button very, very quickly. Obviously, Conley finds himself. He's in Charlotte technically, but he's going to get bought out. I'm even hearing rumblings.
He might go back.
He might go back. Apparently, there's I don't know if this is an actual official rule, but people are calling it like the Andrew Bogut rule. I guess he did that like years ago. Maybe I don't remember that. I would assume it'd be with the Warriors, if anybody. But yeah, you covered it pretty well. I mean, he's not an all-star at all, but he's a damn good player, and he fills a need for, as you said. I don't know that I'm ready to put them above Denver, but I'd say a top 3 team in the Western Conference. After Houston's performance last night against the Celtics team without Jaylen Brown, I don't know that I could sit here and confidently tell you, I like Houston above Minnesota. The Spurs, they're interesting. I don't know if Wemby's ready to be a true number 1 on championship team. He will be soon.
On the offensive end, he's not there.
Not quite on the offensive end.
And to be clear, I do think a healthy Denver team is still the second best, if not maybe the first best team in that conference. But with every passing day, I'm getting increasingly worried for that fan base that we're just not going to see a healthy Denver team in April, let alone May and June. But hopefully I'm wrong. I think a healthy Denver makes it a much more exciting playoffs out west.
Do you want to lump in? We can kind of lump Triple J and AD into one. They're both all-stars that are going, former all-stars, let me rephrase, that are going to teams that right now, like for this season, doesn't hold a ton of intrigue, but moving forward, it might end up being pretty exciting. So AD got dealt to the Wizards in a package that was, weird to say this, that was centered around Chris Middleton's $33.3 million expiring deal heading back to Dallas. And then Triple J was sent to Utah in a package that was mostly surrounding 3 first-round picks.
And the Mavericks did get 2 firsts in that deal.
Oh, they did? Okay, I actually was not aware of that much. Yeah, okay. Actually, yeah, I did know that. The reason we're kind of lumping them in together is because they're just very similar. They play a similar position. Are they a power forward? Are they a center? They're both very strong defensively. AD obviously has a heavy injury history. Triple J has his own malfunctions in the sense that he's 6'11", but for some reason averages less than 6 rebounds per game, which, if you're a Memphis fan, how'd you put up with that? Like, seriously, how did, like, when I heard that, like, I cooled on the whole, Triple J for Cat thing, because that's just ridiculous.
Well, it's funny you mentioned those 2 guys, because I think Jaren Jackson is a great player, just like Cat is a great player, but both of they just have very loud flaws.
Yeah.
They're very noticeable in the things they do poorly. But I think Jaren Jackson's a very good player. He's still, 26? He's not even theoretically in his prime yet. I like that deal a lot more for Utah than I like the AD deal for the Wizards. And I think going forward, like I said earlier, with the whole size thing, if they can bring back Kessler this summer, you have Kessler, Jackson, Markkanen, Bailey, and Keontae George, our inaugural Who's That Pokemon on the podcast. And it's an exciting future for Utah fans, which you haven't really been able to say since they lost Mitchell and Gobert. So happy for that fan base. It will be a little weird once they get good to see, like, how does that team match up defensively? Again, size is good, but you're going to have Bailey and Markkanen guarding 2s and 3s. I don't know if they're necessarily equipped to do that.
Especially Markkanen. He's not going to be able to stay in front of them.
No, but exciting future. Good trade for Memphis, too. You get a lot of firsts. You got 7 combined firsts for Bane and Jackson. I think they did a good job at realizing this core is good, but it's not going to get us to a finals, and they're going to give it another shot. You contrast that with, like, Chicago, who had not nearly as good of a core, but a good core and held on to it for too long, or Toronto, who held on to their core with, like, OG and Siakam for too long. They at least sold high on these guys. I don't know if I'm surprised that Ja didn't get dealt, but I think he will not be there by this time next year. And I think it's a good reset for them. They got some good young pieces. Cedric Coward's going to be a very good player. I still don't know what Edie's going to be, but he's a piece at least.
Yeah.
And so you're back to tanking as a Grizzlies fan. It's not exciting, but I think long term it was the right move for them as well.
Listen, I mean, we sit there here, and you already talked about it. Teams like the Bulls or the Raptors who just held on to these cores that, for the Raptors, obviously, it ended up winning them a championship, so that's worth it. But
I'm talking more post championship with them after they lost Kawhi.
yeah, no, that's fair. I was just thinking, you brought up OG and Siakam, both were on that championship team. And Van Vliet for that matter too. Although he left in free agency, he was not traded away. Yeah, I'll give Utah. No, excuse me, not Utah. Utah was on the receiving end of Triple J. I'll give Memphis credit in the sense that they turned Triple J and Desmond Bane into 7 first-round picks. I don't think they're all the most appealing firsts, but at the end of the day, when you could say, yeah, I turned 2 players into 7 firsts. That's pretty impressive, and I'll give them their kudos on a rebuild. On a good start to their rebuild. I mean, you'll know this pretty easily, I feel like. Now that Triple J has been traded away from the Grizzlies, there's only one member of the 2018 NBA draft class that is with the team that drafted them.
Big country, 23 Savage, Mitchell Robinson, the Jokic stopper, the Wemby stopper, all the names in the world. I love that guy. I'm very glad he's still here. We'll talk about it a little more later, but the Knicks deadline moves seem to indicate that he'll be here going forward, which is great. I do have a question about that, though, because I saw that too. Was Miles Bridges not that draft?
So you took the words right out of my mouth. He was, but he's a little bit of an asterisk. He was not drafted by the Hornets. He was a product of a draft night trade. I believe he was sent I'm almost certain on this one. Him and Shea were swapped for each other because Shea, nobody knows or remembers, was not drafted by the Clippers. Everyone assumes, he was drafted by the Clippers and then traded in the Paul George deal. He was drafted by the Hornets. And I'm pretty sure they flip-flopped for each other, and rest is history there. But
And Bridges spent some time in the prison league too, dirt bag.
yeah, that's another story.
So, and then do you have any more thoughts on AD and kind of how that impacts the Wizards going forward and Dallas going forward, that whole trade?
I mean, Dallas, it's pretty obvious. I feel like, that it's a signal of almost like a cut our losses. We screwed up the Luka deal, which everybody knew at the time, but they're finally learning. Let's cut our losses. Let's get guys. Let's get picks. Let's get guys that we can build around Cooper Flag. I'm surprised. I know he's injured, so everybody forgets him right now. I'm surprised that they didn't shop Kyrie in a little bit more of an excessive manner, if I'm being quite honest. But I understand there's a lot of uncertainty surrounding his torn ACL, so maybe they felt like the value that they were hearing back from teams, if they did even inquire, was not even remotely on par to the way they valued him. And they said, okay, might as well hang on to him, bring him back, and then maybe if he has a good end to the year, deal him in the summer. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I would also say with that, like when you do have a young team and a guy like Cooper Flag, who's the future of your franchise, you do want to have him in a good environment to develop. And Kyrie, he's had his flaws in the past, but now seems like a great locker room guy off the court. And then on the court, he's still going to be a great point guard. And having an actual point guard on your team, I know they picked up Tyus Jones as well.
Yes.
At this deadline, is going to be major for Flag going forward and developing into what I've seen in the last few weeks, developing into a better player than Luka Doncic at the very least.
Oh, dude, the way that he's just mans both ends of the floor, man, he's a special player. Dude, this is awesome. I don't know if you're catching any of this. Like the G League Wizards are up 18 on the Pistons in Detroit right now.
Is Detroit playing everyone? I know they got a big game tomorrow. Are they resting guys?
I mean, I don't think Cade's playing, Robinson's playing. I believe Tobias Harris is playing. Beef Stew is, Duran's in, Asar's in, Javante Green's in. I mean, their big guns are in.
Well, hopefully they lose, but a close one, so they get sleepy for tomorrow. That would be the hope. We'll see. But I do think for the Wizards' end of this, again, I don't think it's like a great deal for them, but I don't think it's a bad deal either. Like we said with Kyrie helping Flag's development, I think getting Young and Anthony Davis in the building will be good for their young guys, even if it takes away their touches. I think Sar is going to be a very, very good piece going forward. And having a guy like AD for him to learn from and develop with, I think is going to be excellent. You see that with teams all the time, whether it was Derrick Rose in New York or other examples that I can't think of, but I'm sure exist. It's great to have, a veteran, former All-NBA level guy to have your guys around. I think his contract situation will be iffy, but if you're a team like Washington that's largely built on guys with rookie deals, you can kind of eat that money in ways that other teams cannot.
I assume
So
you
I don't
touched
mind
base
it for
with Dante. What's
Washington.
he think?
Dante is a Wizards fan that we used to work with. For context, he's kind of similar. He's not like head over heels about it, but he's not mad. I think it's good for young teams to try to be competitive. Like with the Sixers, when they were the process Sixers, I think that culture of losing really hurt guys like Simmons and Fultz, and even Embiid to an extent. Where I do think it's a good thing. 2 years of a tank, and then you start trying to build a culture. I think that outweighs the benefits of continuing to get higher draft picks, because it's not like they're going to be anything above an 8 seed next year. They'll still pick relatively high in the draft, but you now build those winning ways in your young players, which I think is beneficial.
I'd agree. And is there any additional trade you want to talk about before maybe we do a little bit of our own takes on Jose Alvarado becoming a New York Knick? I like how we're saving it for last. Like it's the ultimate deadline deal. It's a great move on the margins, and we're going to talk about it. But I like how we're like, well, let's get everything out of the way so we can talk about Grand Theft Alvarado. Go ahead.
I got 3 rapid fire ones.
Okay.
We'll do them real quick.
Got it.
McCain to the Thunder for a first. I think it's a good move for OKC. Shooting is always an issue with them, and it gives you another guard. And I think for McCain's development as a player, that'll be great. Much better organization than Philly. And I think for Philly, getting a first-round pick for a guy who's been pretty rough this year, not a bad deal.
Yeah, I just think it's a little. I think
Any
it's a little
additional thoughts?
he was on track to win Rookie of the Year last year before he went down. Stephon Castle's clearly the superior player, but I mean, at the time of McCain's injury, Kane was the betting favorite to win Rookie of the Year, and for good reason. I think it was a little bit interesting. The funniest thing that I heard about it was just like, it's like, if Oklahoma City came to me and offered me, a first round pick for this player, my thought wouldn't be, let me trade it to him. My immediate thought would be, let me involve this player far more in my team, which,
Yeah, but
I
I
don't know.
do think yes, if you're going like with sans context, in the situation. But
Yeah.
for Philly, it's very clear what their backcourt of the future is. And I don't think you can't play McCain, Maxey, and Edgecombe together. So I think McCain was destined on this team to be at best their 6th man. And if you can get a first round pick for a 6th man, that's good for you.
Yeah, honestly, when you put it like that, that's a good way of saying it. What's the next one?
Kobe White ended up in Charlotte.
Yep.
Charlotte we talked about last week. I think they're going to sneak into that 8 seed. I would love to see them in the playoffs. And I think, again, he's not going to play over Ball, Knipple, or Miller, but going from Sexton to White as like your 6-man scoring threat, great pickup for Charlotte.
Yeah, I agree. Don't have too many notes on that. Charlotte's a really, really fun team to watch, and Kobe White's a really, really fun guard. I think him and LaMelo are going to be really exciting to watch. Don't know about the defensive prowess on that, but Charles Lee has those boys playing excited. They're the second longest win streak in the NBA right now at 7 games, so it's cute. It's good for them.
Yeah, and they're also probably my second favorite team to watch right now.
Yeah. Hey, league
and then
rankings too with Eric Collins as well. It's a fun team.
Yeah, good jerseys.
Yep.
And then the last rapid fire trade, just doing a little prayer here. Thank God I don't have to consume any more Jonathan Kuminga Golden State Warriors content. That's done. He's in Atlanta. Kind of a weird fit. I don't know how he fits alongside Jalen Johnson, but it's a buy low on a guy with theoretical upside for Golden State. If Porzingis ever plays for them, he's a good fit. Don't think that's going to happen. At this point of Porzingis, I don't even think the illness thing is like something to joke about anymore. That dude's clearly got something going on, whether you see some wild theories, but I mean, the dude, maybe he's just got like cancer or something. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
it's
a crazy situation, and it's kind of just like a weird why not deal for both teams.
I got a funny text from Ethan about that. I know we just said it's not anything to joke about, but this text actually made me laugh out loud. He's like, he goes, texted Ethan earlier, right after the deadline, less than an hour after the deadline. He goes, I love how many moves are being made. However, I can't stand ESPN like looking into all these moves and being so excited about everything. He goes, like Porzingis to the Warriors, give me a break. He'll play 4 games, get stung by a bee, and miss a month.
Yeah, I mean, he's not the over under on his games wearing a Warriors jersey has got to be pretty low.
I mean, there's about 32 games left this year, give or take, and he's an expiring deal this summer. I mean, what is the over under set at 9.5?
Yeah, something like that. It'll be interesting to see what is he a vet minimum guy going forward because of this stuff? Who knows? I mean, because when he plays, he's still a very good player. But like you said, the when, the if is one of the biggest, if not the biggest in the league right now, even more than a guy like Embiid or Davis, I would say. Before we get to Alvarado, I guess I do have one more quick one.
Go ahead.
Brooklyn Nets. You know how much I see on Twitter about how Cam Thomas is actually the best basketball player in New York? He got waived. He blows. The Nets blow. And you know what he is to me? He is the classic, like, Cam Reddish, Lonnie Walker. The Lakers are going to sign him this summer. The Lakers fans are going to be like, oh, we got Cam Thomas. We got Cam Thomas. And then he's going to be playing in Shanghai or Tel Aviv within a year. That dude, he probably one of the best pickup players in the NBA. NBA is not pickup. He's not an NBA player. You can't put him in a system. He doesn't defend. He's a chucker. He's got a lot of talent, but at the size and the way he plays, unless I don't know, he meets God or something, he has a real Prophet Muhammad moment. There's nothing that's going to change there.
Yeah, it's very strange. I mean, dude, I don't know if I've ever seen, seriously, I don't think I've ever seen a player with as much individual talent as he has just get cut, get waived, get given up on. You and I were in the building a little over a year ago, Ben. He hung 40 on it in the Garden. Knicks won that game.
Yep.
Some heroics from Brunson and McHale at the end. But dude, he was a bucket. He hung 40 on us. He couldn't miss. Remember, we had those kids behind us that were clearly Net fans for some reason. Why would you ever grow up in New York and choose to root for the Brooklyn Nets? But that's beside the point. They were just going. Had these really annoying nasally voices, and every time Thomas shot, they would just go green, green, green. And I'll never forget you leaning over to me and just going, this is going to be a really traumatic situation because we can't beat the kids up, because they're kids. So I'm going to have to kick their dad's butt. And you know how awful that's going to be for them to watch that? Which was a classic Ben line. That was a joke, by the way, for my students that might be listening going, Mr. Pags beat somebody up in a Knicks game. It was a joke, okay? But
it was Mr. Pags' friend. It wasn't him.
Yeah, right, exactly. Mr. Pags' friend. They know who you are. I've mentioned you before. What was I going to say? But yeah, it's just so strange. Like, I even texted my buddy Katz, who's a Net fan, and I'm like, he's a good dude too, despite the fact he's a Nets fan. And I'm just like, dude, like, how much of a locker room cancer does this guy possibly have to be to have this much talent and get cut? And he said kind of the similar stuff that you and I are saying right now. It's like, dude, he's small, he doesn't defend, and he just chucks shots. Yeah, he's a bucket, but I mean, it's like we're trying to build a culture here. We have a lot of young guys, and he's not part of our future plans. He hurts their development. Like, that's a fair point. Very fair.
Yeah. So unless you have any thoughts on like Usman Jang or whatever, I think we can talk about the biggest deal of the day.
Of course.
Speaking of growing up in New York, Jose Alvarado.
Absolutely, yeah.
Coming to the New York Knicks brings a lot of what they need. He's a fighter. He's nasty. This team is lacking I guess I can't say the word on this podcast, but they're lacking a jerk.
They're lacking a scrapper.
And they got one. I think he's going to get minutes. The McBride injury was finally reported on today, and now the deadline passed. He's going to be out till April, which is, like I said, this is obviously not good news. It's very bad news, but it's not the worst news in the world. He'll be good to go for the playoffs, which is, thankfully, we're at the position now where making the playoffs is a shoo-in, and just what you do when you get there is what's important. So having him there for that would be good. But even when McBride is back, it's hard for me to see where Alvarado's not getting significant minutes for this team. The Knicks, Tyler Kolek's a nice young player, but I don't know how much you trust him in the playoffs. They have a veteran backup point guard now who can come in, command your offense. I didn't realize he was like a consistent career 40+% three-point shooter. He's had 1 year where he was below 40 and it was 39. I thought he would be more of like a 34, 35% guy. So he can shoot the ball. He's a pest defensively. He's a good point of attack defender, which the Knicks do struggle in. They have been playing very strong defense. They're sneaking into the top 10 in the league, but that point of attack is the one area where they do struggle still, and he's going to help with that a lot. He can run the pick and roll, and it's a great addition. Again, it's an addition around the margins. He's probably your ninth man, but going through a roster where you have Brunson, Hart, Bridges, Anunoby, Towns, now you have Alvarado, Deuce, Shamet, Mitch coming off the bench. You got Mo Diawara, who we'll hold off on this week, but I got to tell you, man, you heard it here. Well, you probably didn't hear it here first if you're on Nick's Twitter, but Pascal Siakam 2.0. We'll get back to this in about 4 years. Very high on this guy, and I think the Knicks are high on him too because they could have given up more assets and gotten a guy like Najee Marshall or Sadiq Bey, but they feel confident that Mo can give you 5 to 10 minutes as a backup wing in the playoffs and not kill you and hit some threes, bring good defensive energy, do a couple cool things. And you have that lineup. You got Kolek as injury insurance. You got, Mitch needs to stay healthy. But if he does that, after this deadline, I'm back. We're so back. I want you to put the word out there that we are back up. The Knicks are my favorites to get out of the East. And it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful thing when Alvarado just pops Ron Holland in the jaw in the conference finals. He might get suspended for the series. I don't care. Set the tone, man. Set the tone. I'm loving it.
Yeah, no, I mean, he clearly, not only does he fill a need that we had, period, but especially given the Deuce news, he fills a very, very vital role of a guy who can be a point of attack defender, which Deuce was pretty solid at. I think Alvarado's comfortably better as a POA defender. And also the fact that he can knock down threes, which while Deuce prior to this recent injury, had cooled off from three, his averages definitely had taken a dip over the course of this winning streak, ironically. I felt like it was weird. I felt like Deuce and Mitch were the only guys playing hard when we were in the doldrums at 2-9 in the beginning of the year. And now, like, since we've been winning, Deuce has like not looked great. He's obviously, I love the guy still.
He's still playing hard. It's
Yeah.
just, shots not falling.
Exactly. Still playing quality defense and all that. But yeah, I think Alvarado is a huge addition to that. And dude, I wonder if you feel the same way. But obviously Larry was recording the pod with us last night. Excuse me, he was recording the pod with us last night. So we were watching the entire game together, and even after the pod ended, he stayed, for the whole double overtime. Kohler did not handle pressure well last night. All you had to do was put Bruce Brown. He hounded him. Kohler could barely handle his dribble. And I was looking at my dad while that was happening, going, dude, Leon's getting on the phone right now, and Alvarado's going to be a Nick. That might have already been in the cards. But I'm like, I remember I was looking at that going, dude, there's no way you can trust that guy to run an offense in a just grueling playoff series against a team
this year.
But
this year.
Still.
I'm still high on him going forward, but yes, for this year, and this is a year where, like we said, East is open. You need to go take your crack at it if you can. This was a great move for that, and it's a great move going forward because Leon Rose and Brock Aller, big guys in the Knicks front office, are geniuses with this cap stuff. And the way this worked, you get from Yabu's salary down to what's the little short-lived Nick? Terry?
Yeah.
Dalen Terry's salary, down to Alvarado's salary. You get off of this Yabu player option, which was an issue. And by giving up Yabu and 2 second-round picks, you get Alvarado, who's helping you this year, and allowing you this summer to re-sign Mitchell Robinson, probably re-sign Shamet, re-sign Mohamed Diawara, and still stay under that second apron. And if things go wrong in the playoffs, signing also allows you to function as a team that can trade for Giannis, where the Knicks will have 2 more firsts they can trade this summer. They have that Wizards second still, and they will stay under the second apron and be a lot more flexible in those trade scenarios because of this deal and not having to deal with that Yabusele player option. Like contract minutia stuff beyond just the basketball court, fantastic deal.
I would agree. I want to take this opportunity. I want to give a shout out to the Dancing Bear, Gershon Yabusele. It didn't work from a basketball perspective. It was a disaster from a basketball perspective, his time in New York. But even despite this, he remained incredibly positive in the locker room. He truly seems like a phenomenal dude. And if all the reports that he was remaining positive, he was still being a great teammate and supporting the young guys and cheering on, the vets, even, guys that he had anticipated and we all anticipate he was going to get playing time over. If you didn't believe all those reports, well, the fact of the matter is Yabu restructured the second year of his contract where he essentially waived his player option, which allowed the Knicks to actually trade him to the Bulls. If you keep up, for those that didn't, if you kept up with the general vibe of teams trying to offload money to other teams, it came with a second round pick or 2. Like you had to attach assets to certain players to get off of them. Yabu allowed us to not have to do that by waiving his player option for next year and essentially just being like, yeah, I'll be an expiring deal, which you don't really see too often, and I'm very, very thankful. And so once again, although it was a disaster from a basketball perspective, I do appreciate him being a great guy, a better teammate, and just being supportive for some of the young guys in the locker room.
Yeah, and he'll get some run in Chicago. Like we said, not a lot of bigs out there.
Yeah.
So I wish him nothing but the best. Hopefully, I don't know, you're going from like the New York City bodegas to the Italian beef. Businesses are going to be going through the roof with Yabu in town. I hope it goes well for him. I hope he continues his NBA career. And if not, he'll still have the Olympics. He'll be a great player in Europe. it was a weird saga. Not what I was expecting with Yabba,
Yeah,
but
certainly not
ended
ideal.
well.
Certainly not ideal. Is there anything else, Ben, you feel like we need to talk about? We are approaching just an hour. We've probably covered like 10 or so trades, maybe even north of that, because we covered our usual 6. I think you threw 4 more at me, and then we brought up Alvarado. So we covered probably over half of like maybe not over half because there's like these little deals where like cash considerations get sent ways. Chris Paul got sent to the Raptors, even though he's never going to play a game in a Raptors jersey. Obviously, we don't need to talk about those. But in terms of like deals that mean even anything, we probably covered over half of them.
I think we covered all the ones that are significant,
No, 100%.
like are going to have an impact this season or going forward. No, I mean, this runs pretty smoothly without Brandon or Ethan
I would
here,
agree.
which is pretty sick.
They can't wear us down. I listen. You've been saying, maybe we go our do 2 separate potential experts, a basketball version, a football version. This could be
We got to become a company, a
a
brand.
brand.
It could be potentially a very good brand.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think we've covered all the stuff. I guess if we want to take a little bit of a bigger picture look, like I said, I think in the West coming out of this, I think Minnesota has become in that upper tier with Minnesota. Well, of course, with Minnesota, but with Denver and Oklahoma. And I do think New York, maybe there's a little bias here, but with the way they've been playing and with the, lack of moves out of Detroit, I think they've established themselves as the favorites out east. So I'd call it a successful deadline. Oh, there's one more thing I want to talk about.
Right.
This will slip my mind. Not that people haven't been talking about this, man, but Giannis, like, dog. I don't know if it's him. I don't know if it's Shams. I don't know what it is, man, but I don't want to, I might mute his name from Twitter for me 'cause I don't want to see any other. It's been like 3 years of this, whereas Giannis is getting traded. And then last week they did the ultimate tease where they're like, it's happening.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. And then as we got there, it was like Golden State's dropping out. Minnesota's dropping out. New York's dropping out. Last day, Miami's dropping out. And he's just still there. And you know what, dude? Good for you if you're happy in Milwaukee. You're happy there, but he's never winning anything there.
No.
I'm sure there's going to be more rumors this summer about him leaving, but I'm at the point where I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm done with Giannis rumors. If there's a Giannis trade, I think we can talk about it. But on this pod, Giannis rumors banned.
Yeah, I think
Banned.
fair. I think it's fair. And even after that, I know I sent it to you, and your response was he's a clown. He posted the Wolf of Wall Street scene where Leonardo DiCaprio, Jordan Belfort, obviously the character, is standing in front of the entire office, and it's an expletive filled rant. So I'm not gonna say everything, but I'm not effing leaving. I'm not effing leaving, and it's just like you controlled that, dude.
Yeah, no duh, dog.
Yeah, it's like what if you didn't want to leave, you I just don't get it. Like there's gonna be
Posted a week ago.
made on this one day. It's what I think is cool is like when stuff happens in like real time, you can go, there's gonna be a 30 for 30 on that. Like there's gonna be like, when the 2016, 2017, 2018 Warriors were happening. It's like there's gonna be a 30 for 30 on the Splash Brothers and this, this
Mhm.
Warriors dynasty. And I mean, obviously there's gonna be probably a 28-part documentary made on LeBron. That might even be selling it short. We know that. But it's cool when like more minor stuff occurs. Like, minor in the grand scheme of things, of course. And it's like this is one thing.
Mhm.
Just, the Greek freak. There's gonna be a documentary made or a 30 for 30 made on just his festivities right now.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those cases where like you're trying to please everyone and you end up pleasing nobody because of it. He's just playing both sides of it so hard, and I don't know. I find it obnoxious. I think he's obviously like a great person, but the way he's handled this trade saga it's
About as bad as it can be.
yeah, it's rubbed me the wrong way. I don't know. This is the last we get to talk about it for a very long time,
Yeah.
which is nice. And now that the deadline is passed and the NFL is wrapping up, we're going to be going heavy on the NBA talk.
will.
We can dive into the minutia of the games. We got All-Star Weekend coming up, and very exciting in the near future. We have the World Baseball Classic, which I also think is going to be a fun one.
I would agree.
So it's a good time in the sports calendar.
It is. I mean, and you got Brandon to break down the goaltending battle for the Olympic team.
Famously.
You can't miss that. And the battle between
Oh, shocking.
Swayman, Hellebuck, and Ottinger. I mean, I've been on pins and needles. I've been refreshing Twitter nonstop. Just waiting to hear an update from the United States head coach to see who's going to get the go in game 1 of the round robin. So I'm excited.
When I listen to part 1 of this, do I get to hear Brandon's thoughts on Panarin?
do.
You guys talk about that at
Yeah,
all?
yeah, we did. It's at the very end. We talked a little bit about it, but it wasn't. We didn't exhaust it too much. Basically, the gist is we got fleeced.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, and I guess we'll lock in on some college basketball too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's obviously picking up. You may get some Vermont Catamounts coverage.
They're
The Green Mountain
getting belt
Dynasty.
tonight.
They are getting belt tonight, but in March they will be getting belt in the Madness. They'll make it. They're gonna win that conference. I'm feeling it.
I hope,
The Gus bus, they're riding it all the way.
dude. Gus is so nice with it, but yeah, we tried to come back. We were down by like 20 at the half, but I mean, we cut it to 6, but there's 23 seconds left, so that'll do it.
Against who?
Maine.
No, Ace Flag.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Ace is nice with it.
Yeah. Twin brother of Cooper. Some are putting up 49 against professional NBA players, and some are playing against the Vermont Catamounts. He's lucky I'm not still in college, or he'd be hearing it. That's for sure.
I'm sure he hears it everywhere he goes. Well, maybe not in the America East, but oh god, you know what, Ben? If you end up back in this area, we'll do a trip up like once a year to Burley, and we'll hit a Catamounts game and hit Church Street afterwards.
Yeah. It's a little sad though. I'm getting a little too unk for the student section.
I didn't say go to the student section, dog. I said go to a Catamounts game.
But student section, you get to sit behind the opposing bench. You get to talk to them a little bit, encourage them, say nice things. It's enjoy. Yeah, guys, I'm turning 24 in 12 days. I'm entering the mid 20s.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to convince the students it's the big 3-0. They're not really buying it. There's a few of them who have taken the bait, but most of them figured out my fibs by this point in the year.
Have you pulled out the classic? You know that was my nickname in high school.
It did. Someone asked me, what was it the other day? Oh, someone asked me the other day why my nickname was Venezuela. And I said, it's like, hey, I don't know.
I don't know.
It's a mystery.
Oh man, one of my favorite quotes. Shout out one of my favorite students I've ever had up in Vermont. I'll mention her by name. Who cares? Ayla Bacchus, great student. She had a great quote to you. Go, I thought your nickname was Soup.
Yeah, I'm a man of many nicknames. That's what it's like being me.
Yeah, I guess so. All right, Ben. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you guys listening in for over an hour long episode. A lot of great ball talk. Who knows? Maybe there'll be more just Ben and I episodes moving forward. If Ethan, Brandon doesn't really love basketball anyway, but I mean, if Ethan decides, oh, I don't really care to talk ball tonight, well, that might just be what ends up happening. Might just be Ben and I rolling. But we appreciate you listening, and have a good one, ladies and gentlemen. Peace.
Good night, guys.
Good episode.